qué rico es ser latino. ¡Hoy se ve!
The first statement is "Qué rico es ser Latino."
Yeah.
And it's that statement about the richness of he's not saying Puerto Rican, he's saying Latino. So he's naming the whole Latino community, so it connects with having Dominican Republic sugar canes in the video.
Yeah.
To just keep that central message clear.
And it's a clear reference to anybody who's Puerto Rican in the island of Dominican immigration, which is a big, huge deal right now, right?
Looking behind the coco, that is so typical. These are all typical daily lived experience of Puerto Ricans. Like,
well, my understanding is that all of the vendors that he used, they're all real vendors.
So piragua, what you call shaved ices. I mean, that was like a treat when you went to La Plaza, and I went, we went downtown, which La Plaza is like downtown, center of town. They will have piragueros where you could get, and if you behave, you might get a piragua as a reward for good behavior for being with your mom and dad in town.
Wait, is that our general conference booth? Is we have a piragua station for people?
So I believe that this is a reference to what's happening with ICE and immigration. I believe that the whole breaking into a house and kicking the door open is his subtle way of saying this is because just look at the way it happens, and look at the way the family is in the middle of a meal, and then he's kicking open the door.
Yeah.
And then I've heard the interpretation of that was kicking out colonization in our communities. And the interpretation of how, because when he goes from here, you're going to start seeing the diaspora reality of the New Yorkers, which was a big piece of his show later, right?
Yeah.
So it's also about this colonial thing that's happening to our culture. One thing that really touched me is the door. That door is a typical Puerto door.
Oh, is it?
It's like the typical door for the main house.
This one?
No, when it opens,
when it opens?
Does it look like that? That's the U.S. side. Look at the other side when he opens it.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
Right there.
Oh,
you see
that's so cool.
Wow.
That so the fact that that is like a more typical U.S. door. Look at that door.
Yeah.
Okay. Etching of the
breaking into the society, or
I love the door. That's my grandma used to have those doors.
Wow.
Y si hoy estoy aquí en el Super por 60, es porque nunca dejé de creer en mí. Tú también deberías.
Yeah, the way he's moving it.
The way he actually said, the reason I am here on Super Bowl 60 is because I never stopped believing in me. And you should not stop believing in yourself.
Yeah, I just imagine all the immigrant and migrant young kids watching this, and like seeing this message. I think it really gave him a lot of strength to go on with what they're doing. Yeah.
You see someone like you on the biggest stage.
Stop it right there. So you know what he says there, right?
No, what did he say?
He said, tell me, this is what you wanted? And what do we see? We see the
monogamous.
Well, no. We see
afterwards.
Lady Gaga, blonde hair, blue eyes, singing in English, salsa. So basically, it's shade. It's shade on the U.S. saying, "Oh no, you want Latino, but you want Latino your way. You want to be able to sing our songs and put them in your little, So okay, so we'll give you some of that." She did great.
Common.
Eso, ay Dios mío.
That is so common.
Yeah.
I heard a lot about that.
Me
They're
too.
like, yes, growing up Latino Hispanic means you're always falling asleep because you're following your parents
The
around.
party never stops.
You're sitting on random
Across
chairs.
the diaspora, you would fall asleep on the chair and just wake up in your bed and be like, I don't even know who carried this chair.
Bailen sin miedo.
Sin miedo, that's the word. Dance without fear.
Mm-hmm.
Which is it's resistant joy, right?
It's resistant, yeah.
For me, ver la marqueta. I grew up, I was born in Puerto Rico and then came to New York City when I was 6 years old. And when we talk about La Marqueta in Brooklyn, in Bushwick, it was this big place where we would come and get the typical things that we wanted from the island. It's like the market kind of thing, but it was like the place where I used to go get tamarindo because, tamarind and all those things. So it was a place of finding your local ingredients from the island. This is now the chairs.
Oh yeah.
It's so typical.
Yeah.
They are the typical chairs that you find.
The plastic chairs.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Church, porches, in the yard, you find them everywhere.
Yeah.
I know I'm getting some. I'm getting some from my back porch, man. I'm getting rid of them.
They're going to increase in sales now because everybody
I know.
It's going to cost
plastic
$50 each.
I know.
They were saying that Ricky Martin wrote an open letter to Bad Bunny the week before the Super Bowl about how appreciative he was that Bad Bunny could always sing in Spanish and be true to his own culture, and how in the 90s, when it was kind of like Mark Anthony and Shakira and J-Lo and Ricky Martin, they all had these like crossover albums that they had to sing in English or re-record their Spanish music into English, and how healing a lot of it was to watch Ricky Martin be able to actually sing in his own language and on this platform of like, and then how you had Lady Gaga do a reverse crossover where she's making her music in a different way.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a really interesting conversation happening online about what it means to accommodate or assimilate and what it means to expect, what to expect of other cultures, mainstream music. Yeah.
There's this whole thing about gentrification and colonization of the island. So he starts talking about you want to take my rivers, you want to take my beaches, you want to take my community, like barrio. I wouldn't say barrio, neighborhood, but neighborhood. And I mean, there's a big thing now in Puerto Rico about the privatization of beaches.
Yeah.
That is happening in terms of some of the political gains that are happening. But he's really, I feel like he goes, I don't want to you do like what you did to Hawaii, that it lost its identity, it lost who they were, and we colonized the people. The image of him carrying the flag is a powerful moment. Not only about pride, but also remembering that this government in 1948, I think it was, put the gag order in place.
Right.
People died for having a Puerto Rican flag or even displaying it. So if you owned it, displayed it, or any form, it was illegal.
Yeah, I was gonna add too. So like the 1937 massacre on Good Friday, and then the gag order, which lasted almost 10 years. So you think about 10 years, and it was associated with freedom, independence. So very threatening. That led to a whole FBI. There's a whole list of it, but yeah,
that's why we have flags everywhere.
Exactly. That's why I was telling people, like, why there's reasons why we have flags, but Yeah, so it's interesting for 10 years, couldn't. Yeah.
And then I read in his song, La Mudanza, he said, bury him with the light blue flag on my coffin.
Yeah. Uy, Dios mío, Dios lo cuide.
Antillas, United States, Canadá, and my motherland, mi patria, Puerto Rico.
I love how he started with God Bless America and then named all the countries that represent America, decentering United States.
Think about the moment of unity, pride, connection that this moment does. That you can see all the flags of these countries being named and be in a space that we are still could be together, despite the social political narrative that dehumanizes us, that continues to say that we're worthless, but together we're powerful. And so to me, it has that beautiful climatic moment of saying, despite what everything's happening, look at the beauty that makes America. This whole thing, the whole thing about Gulf of America changes its narrative right now, right? So if we take this image of America of being removed from this centralized U.S. focus to really focus it about the beauty of what it is, the Americas, it's again a reminder that we are all part of this. To me, it was just beautiful to see that. And it's not about one, but he's reclaiming the Latinos. We have a place.
I was going to add something too, that on last Sunday at church, we were encouraged to watch Bad Bunny, the halftime show. We were talking about it. We got the kids excited about it, that they should check it out. And the other day I was talking to our Sunday school teacher, and she was telling me that when the kids went down to Sunday school class, that some of them, they're kids, right? So they were saying, yeah, we want to watch it, but we may not be able to understand it, so they're young. They were just thinking about that. And then one of the kids said, you don't have to understand it. You can feel it. And that came out of the mouth of a child. And, even me, not speaking or not understanding Spanish, I knew that I would be moved by the music, by the colors, the joy. Now, one thing that came out of this was I just felt like it was very unifying.
The other day when I said, "Oh, my mom's calling because of the Super Bowl. She wants to talk about the Super Bowl." No, she was calling to talk about the halftime show because my stepdad grew up in a time where he was demonized for speaking Spanish. And she was saying, and so he'd just stop speaking Spanish. So only my grandparents spoke Spanish. And she was saying, I don't understand why we're still having this conversation, why people are still reactive to people speaking Spanish. And she was talking about how she wished that people like my stepdad, had this moment growing up to see that nothing's wrong with you speaking Spanish, with you having your culture. And so we've just kind of been having a conversation as a family of what would life have looked like for him to feel pride and not isolated or demonized at school as one of the only Mexican kids at the Catholic school speaking Spanish. So I found that really interesting because my mom is a white woman. I would assume she was calling to talk about the Super Bowl, and but I think we've seen his own pain of not feeling Latino enough.
Yeah.
And so that's this conversation we're having in our home of what this moment means for people who have felt like they had to stop speaking Spanish to accommodate.
So there's so much intersectionality, right?
Yes.
Because Native Americans were basically stripped of their language as well, right? In Indian schools. the fact that it started in a sugarcane field, it speaks of African enslavement, and speaks of that the Middle Passage, right? It speaks of that reality that 1619 meant 1492 and beyond that. So there's so many intersections.
But I think this is the richness of culture.
It is, yeah.
It is these moments that remind us that despite all the stuff that we're dealing with, we are connected. And it's important to be connected to our roots, be able to remember where our veins, our blood veins run through, and really, like he said, don't stop believing in yourself. If anything, we are living in a time where we could stop believing that we could do anything. And the injustice that we'll continue to face is more than the justice that we're experiencing. But let us take that advice. Let's keep believing in ourselves.